all his charmingness went away, and he said the words, "You can forget all the business advice I gave you. You're on your own."
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're looking at infamous times a news or sports reporter wrecked their career and the repercussions they faced.
Vacation, what is that like?
Number 20, AJ Clemente. On the first day of a new job, most people, especially on TV, want to make it memorable. However, AJ Clemente became famous for all the wrong reasons. In 2013, he was the new weekend co-anchor for the NBC affiliate news program KFYR-TV in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Good evening, I'm Van Tu. You may have seen our newest report, AJ, on NBC North Dakota News.
Yet seconds into the opening, Clemente mumbled multiple swear words on live TV, leaving co-host Van Tu to pretend that wasn't the worst news debut ever.
Thanks, Van. I'm very excited. I graduated from West Virginia University, and I'm used to, from being from the East Coast.
While Clemente apologized for his outburst, he was still fired by KFYR-TV. Instead of marinating in the scandal, the former news anchor quickly returned to his previous job as a bartender in Delaware, as offers to be on reality TV trickled in.
Were you aware that you were on the air?
I had no clue. I had no...
Okay. Y'all so wrong for that.
Number 19, Trent Evans. At one time, Trent Evans was enjoying life as an award-winning TV reporter for Australia's Channel 7 in Queensland. However, in 2016, as the pressures of the job mounted, his mental health deteriorated, causing him to leave his position. Evans spent several years struggling financially and getting help from mental health services. In 2021, he and Rex Willocks spent the day drinking several bottles of champagne in Melbourne. Evans then drove Willocks' car with the owner in the passenger seat. After driving nearly double the speed limit, the vehicle struck a power pole. While Evans survived, Willocks sadly didn't. In 2022, after pleading guilty, Evans was sentenced to 7 years and 10 months in jail. Number 18, James Gordon Meek. As well as working as an advisor to the U.S. House Committee on Homeland Security, James Gordon Meek was also an investigative producer for ABC news programs such as 2020 and Nightline, specializing in national security. However, all the respect he had accumulated over the years evaporated in 2022. That year, Meek was arrested by the FBI for possession of indecent child-focused media and exchanging them with other people. Meek quickly vanished from the public life after resigning from ABC, causing a lot of speculation in the media. In 2023, after pleading guilty to the offense, the former reporter was sentenced to 6 years in jail. Number 17, Tom Brennaman. When it comes to apologizing, sincerity really matters. Otherwise, you could become a viral meme.
I don't know if it's going to be for the Reds. I don't know if it's going to be for my bosses at Fox. I'm going to apologize for the people who signed my paycheck.
Since 1994, Tom Brennaman had worked for Fox Sports, typically covering football and baseball. In 2020, he was commenting on the Cincinnati Reds and Kansas City Royals. During it, Brennaman used a homophobic slur when talking about San Francisco that went out live.
I made a comment earlier tonight that I guess went out over the air that I am deeply ashamed of.
Just before he was pulled from the game, Brennaman attempted to apologize and use his faith as an excuse.
I'm so very, very sorry. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith.
However, during it, he suddenly got distracted by calling a Nick Castellanos home run before switching back to his apology. It was bonkers.
There's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos. It will be a home run. And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game.
Brennaman was soon fired by Fox. Since the incident, he has worked with Puerto Rico's Roberto Clemente League and Chatterbox Sports.
When you were a younger guy, it was just a word. I've come to learn the real root of that word.
Number 16, Sabrina Earley. In 2014, the world of education was rocked by Sabrina Earley's article for Rolling Stone about student Jackie Coakley's account of a horrible incident at the University of Virginia.
Jackie did go to the school to report her allegations, and the school did absolutely nothing.
Coakley spoke about how she was assaulted in 2012 by a group as part of a fraternity initiation ritual. The article also explored the university's lack of support for her. However, as the media examined the story in more detail, Earley's article wasn't adding up, and her bias was questioned. A police investigation also found no evidence to support the article's claims. In 2015, Rolling Stone retracted the story.
Was terrible journalism, and it really was done with reckless disregard for the truth.
Regardless, the magazine and Earley faced several defamation lawsuits. In 2017, Rolling Stone settled one case with the University of Virginia for $1.65 million. Number 15. Dan Rather. Starting in 1962, Dan Rather worked for CBS in various capacities, even anchoring CBS Evening News. Seemingly, he was going to retire at the company. However, that changed in 2004 when Rather hosted a 60 Minutes 2, exploring what were called the Killian documents. These papers were apparently written in 1973 and contained criticism of President George W. Bush's time at the Texas Air National Guard.
Mr. Bush was suspended from flying on August 1st, 1972. That date matches the one on a memo given to CBS News.
However, after their release, their authenticity was questioned, as they appear to have been written with modern typography.
Those who found the story uncomfortable for their partisan political purposes attacked us at what they knew to be the weakest point, which was the document.
After defending the papers, Rather and CBS admitted they were wrong. In 2005, Rather stepped down from his anchor role and was fired the following year. He attempted to sue CBS, only to have the case thrown out.
The darkest period of my professional career, I'd much rather a movie be made about my coverage of civil rights or Watergate or Vietnam War, but life's not like that.
Number 14. Don Lemon. In 2006, Don Lemon joined CNN. By 2014, he was becoming one of the news' most well-known faces as he was showcased across the channel's programming as a host. But then things took a turn. In 2023, Lemon was heavily criticized for the misogynistic comments he made about Nikki Haley not being in her prime, as she was not in her 20s, 30s, or 40s.
Politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime.
Yikes. Not long after, Variety reported on allegations that Lemon had a history of misogynistic and abusive comments toward female colleagues. As the scandal grew, CNN fired Lemon. In 2024, the former anchor received around $24.5 million from his former employers as part of a separation deal. Number 13. Ken Rosado.
All right, Heather, thank you. 541. Still ahead on Eyewitness News this morning. New guidelines issued for New York educators.
Having joined New York's WABC TV in 2003 as a reporter, the Emmy Award-winning Ken Rosado eventually became the channel's anchor for Eyewitness News this morning. Yet, after decades in the business, in 2023, Rosado found himself in hot water. Reportedly, he was heard calling co-host Shirlene Alicott an insult on an open microphone. While the show was off-air and the audio wasn't broadcast to the viewing audience, it was heard by production staff in the studio. There were allegations the comment was offensive.
No matter the racism and the prejudice that I experienced, because I experienced it.
However, Rosado's representatives denied this to be the case. Regardless, WABC TV moved quickly and fired the anchor.
Heather?
Yes.
What do you have for us?
We're not looking too good.
Number 12. Charlie Rose. Charlie Rose was noted for his work on both CBS and PBS, hosting a self-titled talk show for the latter. He was one of the most famous interviewers on U.S. television, but in 2017, all of that fell apart.
And when she reported a good deal of this, the executive producer's reaction was to treat her like she was, quote, a dramatic little girl.
The Washington Post released an article with allegations of Rose's sexual misconduct against several women who were his employees or hoping to be.
Most of these women that we talked to were working for him at a very early stage in their careers. So for them, I think that there would be a tremendous risk, to speaking out.
After a brief suspension, Rose was fired by CBS and PBS as he apologized for his behavior. By 2018, 35 women had accused him of harassment, resulting in lawsuits against him. Rose attempted to dismiss one case by claiming the women were exploiting the Me Too movement. In 2022, he began releasing interviews on his own website. Number 11. Tucker Carlson. In 2009, Tucker Carlson found his home with Fox News after working with other channels.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight.
He got his own show with Tucker Carlson Tonight in 2016, soon becoming one of the channel's most watched series. But in 2023, that relationship abruptly ended when Carlson was fired by Fox. While no reason was given immediately, reports soon came out about Carlson's behind-the-scenes attitude.
The truth is, a lot of rank-and-file Fox staffers never liked Tucker Carlson. They viewed him as this other guy off doing his own thing, separate from the rest of the network.
It's alleged he sent several inflammatory messages about Fox higher-ups and used racist language. With that and other incidents, there were liability concerns from the network's lawyers.
It was neither an insurrection nor deadly.
Afterward, Carlson created the Tucker Carlson Network and released controversial interviews there and on X, formerly Twitter. Number 10. Brian Williams.
I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft.
Brian Williams was a high-profile managing editor and anchor for NBC Nightly News. But in 2015, his rep took a big hit due to allegations concerning his coverage of the 2003 invasion of Iraq. At first, Williams claimed he had been in a helicopter in Iraq that had to land after another chopper was nearly struck by an RPG.
When the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG. Our traveling NBC News team was rescued, surrounded, and kept alive by an armored mechanized platoon from the U.S. Army 3rd Infantry.
Over the years, his story changed to his aircraft needing to land after being hit. Soldiers who were there at the time contested the newer versions of Williams' story. While the anchor eventually apologized for exaggeration, the damage was done, and he was suspended and eventually moved to a lesser position.
After 28 years of peacock logos on much of what I own, it is my choice now to jump without a net into the great unknown.
Number 9. Ivory Hecker.
Before we get to that story, I want to let you, the viewers, know that Fox Corp has been muzzling me to keep certain information from you, the viewers.
It's not often a reporter purposely tanks their career live on TV. But in 2021, that's what Ivory Hecker did on the local news affiliate Fox 26 Houston. On the air, Hecker launched into a rant that Fox had been what she called muzzling her and other reporters about topics she wanted to cover.
From what I'm gathering, I am not the only reporter being subjected to this. I am going to be releasing some recordings about what goes on behind the scenes at Fox.
She stated she would release secret recordings made with the right-wing activist group Project Veritas. These revolved around promoting the disproven hydroxychloroquine as a COVID-19 treatment. After being initially suspended for her on-air outburst, unsurprisingly, Hecker was fired.
I found a nonprofit journalism group called Project Veritas. It's going to put that out tomorrow, so tune into them.
Number 8. Aaron Calvin.
Abandoned by the Register. That's what former Des Moines Register reporter Aaron Calvin told BuzzFeed that he feels like after being fired from the paper earlier this week.
It started with a man named Carlson King in the background of ESPN's College Game Day coverage, holding a jokey sign with his Venmo stating he needed beer money. After a big response, King started raising money for the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital and finished his campaign with millions in donations. During the fame, reporter Aaron Calvin did a profile on King for the Des Moines Register, in which he mentioned the fundraiser's problematic social media account from years before when he was a teen.
But then it started to fall apart. A reporter at the Des Moines Register found insensitive tweets King wrote 8 years ago when he was 16, reportedly based off a Comedy Central show, Tosh.0. Remember that show?
After making the post and King's apology, Calvin was harassed, had his life threatened, and his own potentially problematic tweets parsed. Eventually, the Des Moines Register fired Calvin.
The latest twist, that reporter had his own old insensitive tweets and now has been fired. No. Yes.
Oh Number 7. Lydia Cumming.
It's a photo that seems to show ordinary people lending a hand to a flood victim. Or does it?
It's usually not great when a reporter becomes a viral meme. But that's what happened to reporter Lydia Cumming in 2016 as she covered a flood in Puebla, Mexico for TV Azteca. Taken by a photographer at the scene, Cumming was hoisted up in the air by two locals. seemingly to avoid her shoes getting wet.
Lydia Cumming is a 24-year-old reporter who hitched a ride with this couple while reporting on devastating floods in Mexico.
After the image got out, she was photoshopped into all sorts of situations. However, TV Azteca was less than impressed with the social media fame. They fired Cumming for disrespectfully using local residents in a trying time.
Why doesn't she take off her shoes instead? Another post, you would think that wearing maybe rain boots in a flooded area would be common sense.
In an interview afterward, Cumming claimed the residents wanted to show her their elderly disabled neighbor and offered to carry her, which she briefly agreed to. Number 6. Rick Sanchez.
I don't mind Sanchez at all until today, where he really stepped in it.
After joining CNN in 2004 as a reporter, Rick Sanchez quickly rose up the ranks as a news anchor, even getting his own program with Rick's List. But in 2010, that vanished when he appeared on SiriusXM's radio program Stand Up with Pete Dominic.
Pete has actually worked for Jon Stewart in the past, so he's defending Stewart obviously throughout.
Angered by reports about his show's time slot being replaced, and with Jon Stewart for comedic jabs at him, Sanchez called Stewart a bigot. Sanchez then claimed CNN and other networks discriminated against him and made comments about Stewart's ethnic background and the news business. Very unsurprisingly, Sanchez was soon fired by CNN and later joined Fox.
You were the host of that show on a competing network, by the way, and you kind of introduced me into this whole thing.
And look what happened from there.
Number 5. Bill O'Reilly. After making his name on various channels, in 1996, Bill O'Reilly joined the brand new Fox News and was handed his own show, The O'Reilly Factor.
You are about to enter the no spin zone.
He regularly courted controversy, but that didn't stop him from becoming one of the country's biggest political commentators.
It's a good place to work, all right? We do good work. We do honest work there.
But then, in 2017, the New York Times released an article detailing sexual misconduct lawsuits issued against O'Reilly.
You said at the time you did absolutely nothing wrong.
Correct.
Do you stand by that?
I do.
It stated that Fox had helped him settle cases issued by 5 women at the cost of $13 million. Quickly, advertisers began dropping the O'Reilly Factor.
And he caught up with me and said, no, come back to my suite. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And then he became hostile. All his charmingness went away.
After another lawsuit was discovered that was settled for $32 million, Fox and his talent agencies fired O'Reilly. Since then, he's hosted the show and podcast No Spin News and had a speaking tour with Donald Trump. Number 4. Marley Rivera.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know you speak English now. Oh, you started speaking English. I'm sorry.
As a reporter for ESPN and the Spanish language channel ESPN Deportes, Marley Rivera was one of the biggest names in sports journalism. After all, she was included in the Sports Illustrated article, The 30 Most Influential Hispanics in Sports in 2017. But in 2023, that reputation took a hit. Before a New York Yankees game, freelancer Yvonne Gaetti tried to interview Aaron Judge, but Rivera argued with Gaetti that she had already scheduled an interview with the MLB star. The face-off was recorded, which included Rivera using an expletive while insulting Gaetti.
Excuse me, did you record that, right? What? I wasn't talking about you.
To make it worse for Rivera, Gaetti is married to the MLB Vice President of Communications, John Blundell. While Rivera apologized, Gaetti reportedly rejected it, and Rivera was soon fired by ESPN.
Rivera would admit she and her fellow reporter have had disagreements in the past.
Number 3. Chris Cuomo.
You know, the biggest media story this weekend. It's the firing of Chris Cuomo from this network, CNN.
Prominent anchor and journalist Chris Cuomo joined CNN in 2013 and eventually got his own program, Cuomo Primetime. And with his brother Andrew Cuomo being the governor of New York, he had some pretty good connections. Well, that was until multiple misconduct allegations came out about the governor.
And a former female colleague has now come forward accusing Chris Cuomo of sexual misconduct. He denies any wrongdoing.
While Cuomo publicly stated he couldn't talk about the story due to his close connection, reportedly behind the scenes, the anchor and licensed attorney advised his brother on dealing with the scandal and used his sources to gather information on the accusers. After being briefly suspended by CNN during an investigation, Cuomo was let go by the network in 2021.
A CNN spokesperson saying overnight, when the new allegation came to us this week, quote, we took them seriously and saw no reason to delay taking immediate action.
Number 2. Megyn Kelly.
It seemed okay. Well, I was wrong, and I am sorry.
After leaving Fox, Megyn Kelly became one of the highest paid anchors when she joined NBC in 2017. And one of her main tasks was hosting her own talk show, Megyn Kelly Today. Yet in 2018, one segment in particular caused a massive scandal for Kelly. As the panel discussed the topic of offensive blackface, Kelly stated when she was a child that was okay as long as people were playing a character. She then defended the actions of Luann de Lesseps, who was criticized when cosplaying as Diana Ross.
People said that that was racist. And I don't know, I thought, like, who doesn't love Diana Ross? She wants to look like Diana Ross for one day. I don't know how, like, that got racist on Halloween.
Days later, Kelly's show was canceled. In early 2019, she was dropped by NBC, but also received the remaining $30 million from her contract.
Parties have resolved their differences, and Megyn Kelly is no longer an employee of NBC.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Matt Lauer.
Lauer was scheduled to host the Rockefeller Center tree lighting. As you guys know, he was not there last night.
After joining NBC in 1992, Matt Lauer would become one of the network's most recognizable and marketable faces. On top of being an anchor for the Today Show, Matt Lauer also hosted the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and the Olympic Games opening ceremonies. Then in 2017, NBC received a detailed report from a female colleague accusing Lauer of harassment that began during the coverage of the 2014 Winter Olympics in Russia.
NBC News can report 2 additional women came forward to the network after the news initially broke.
After an investigation by the networks, they fired the host from his hosting and reporting duties. And not long after, further allegations came out about Lauer during his time at NBC.
And we were told some very shocking and disturbing stories, which are a stark contrast to the Matt Lauer that everybody has known for over 20 years.
Which reporter is the most beloved of all time? Walter Cronkite, Ann Curry, Trevor McDonald, or someone else? Let us know below.
I'll be away on assignment, and Dan Rather will be sitting in here for the next few years. Good night.